What's up, it's your boy Slick King back with another video. This is part 2 to What If Deku Was Betrayed. And this, I told you in the last part, that's what Deku looked like. He now has the powers of Meliodas, Estarossa, Zeldris, Seven Deadly Sins, Goku, Dragon Ball Z, Dragon Ball Super, Dragon Ball GT Goku as well. And he also has the power of Saitama, One Punch Man. And I'm debating if I should give him this power. Yeah, whatever, I want him to be as OP as possible. He's getting the boosted gear from Issei Hyodo High School DxD. And I was actually really not thinking about doing this until a couple minutes ago, but in this version, Deku can actually, well, I said lift a building and spin on his finger. Now he can actually move the planets and spin them on his finger. Like, he could actually block out the sun, the literal sun, by surrounding it in darkness. With Meliodas, Estarossa, Zeldris, their abilities alone, but with all the power he has that's dark and light, he wouldn't have to worry about it. Also, the sun is one of his most powerful assets, if he wanted to. He can create smaller suns, but still suns. They're actually strong as the sun itself, which is from your boy Escanor from the Seven Deadly Sins. So yeah, Meliodas in this version helped Escanor with controlling that power. Well, really, it was after they died and were reincarnated. They just couldn't speak with Deku because, well, they didn't quite have what it was taking to reach him. He was powerful, but they just didn't have the time to reach him, in all actuality. And now he's trained with all of them, even Saitama, who he could actually throw hands with Saitama in the beginning of it, but Saitama automatically had won. Like, he actually took 5 punches from Saitama, and Saitama took about 100 punches from Deku, because Saitama was in no rush, but when he started feeling that his bones were starting to break, that's when he got serious and threw the punch that ended it. And I'm going to say that his quirk was not that thing I said in the beginning. It wasn't like a double quirk. It wasn't the quirk called double. That was just one of its abilities. He finds out what the full power of his quirk is, all for all. Now his one for all he still has that. Doubling any quirk is one of the powers of all for all. Actually, a subscriber actually asked me to do this, so yeah, I'm doing it. And Deku, when I say that he's not the guy you want to mess with, he's just, no. You wouldn't want to get into a fight with him, even if, like, to save the world, you wouldn't want to get into a fight with him. And all those heroes who got absolutely destroyed in that last part, well, Recovery Girl helps them. And there's only one person who might be able to challenge Deku, and that would be the mastered power called Plot Armor. He's also the reincarnation. I'm going to say he's the reincarnation of what's his name? Kazuma from Konosuba. Yeah, he might not seem to be very powerful, but the skills are quite useful. He has Steel, which relies on luck, and in this version he's got luck like nobody's business because of all these lucky people. And Kazuma wasn't the strongest, but he had a lot of skills. And he even learned Explosion, was able to take energy from people, and all that. So that's what he usually mainly uses, but all these different spells, powers, all that, they take a toll on Deku's body if he uses them all at once. And when he wakes up, he finds something that's bad happening. There's a giant explosion, which heroes are trying to stop, which the license Deku has shows that he's a hero. So he gets into this uniform that you see here, because they made him a plus-sized one for his now giant frame, and he actually blitzes in. And what I mean by, and he had that bunny ears in this other one, but no, I'm gonna say that It's more like a hood in this version. Like, I'm not really sure what to do. Yeah, it's just like Canon Deku's clothes, but like bigger and more bulky. Also, in this version, he will be losing his shirt or having to take it off a lot. Because, yeah, I'm just saying that's gonna have to happen because of plot, convenience. Yeah, I don't have anything else. And this is when there's a giant thing on the loose. They don't know what it is, they think it's a giant Nomu, but Deku knows Nomus aren't that powerful. It was actually a demon. A demon with a power level that makes... It's basically kind of like a red demon evolved form because it's actually the reincarnation of the Demon King, Anos, not Anos's, Meliodas Estarossa and Zeldris' dad. It's the reincarnation of him. And no one can keep up with him. And not quite. You see, they all have the power, and this giant red demon has assault mode activated. So it's more like the one that attacked there, but with a lot more power. Sorry, my mind lost track for a second. Anyway, yeah, Deku, when he sees this, he sees All Might go throw a punch at it, and as much as he hates All Might, yeah, because All Might's really he's not a big fan of All Might in this version. When he sees All Might straight up get swatted with a flick, he's like, oh, this is gonna be fun. And it really wasn't. In his mind, it wasn't. He also got the magic of all, like, in this version, he's getting the magic of all demon slayers from Fairy Tail, all dragon slayers from Fairy Tail, and all god slayers from Fairy Tail. Yes, Natsu can wield all the power, but... Well, technically Natsu really can't, but he's got the capabilities. If he wanted to, he could wield that much power, but he's just not relying on just Natsu. He's learning from the originals. And in this version, dragons still exist, because there's no dragon slayers to stop them. They just hide amongst the leaves in the forest. And I'm going to say that people know of dragons, they just won't mess with dragons. Because even heroes say that dragons are too powerful to stop, which even Dragon Slayer magic has a weakness. So yeah. So Deku's fighting at all he can again. So really he gets there and he sees all these pro heroes, the ones that he fought, absolutely getting massacred. And they say, "Help us," as they're all being destroyed. And right before one of them dies, I'm going to say it was that wood dude. He was about to die by a giant exploding flame thing. But instead, Deku straight up just steps in. And he was wearing his full outfit, but in this version, his shirt straight up gets burned off. So the upper half of it burned off. Really sucks for Deku. But yeah, the upper half got burned off. So this is what he looks like. And it's really smoky. So he puts that thing over his mouth because it actually helps you breathe. That's what it is. It's basically a respirator thing. It helps you breathe. Yeah, it might seem stupid, but yeah, in a smoky area, he'll wear that so he can breathe. It's a special support item that he has. The thing on his neck. His oddly muscular neck. Yeah. And this thing goes, and he sees something. He sees Deku going into all the forms. He goes into Assault mode, Dragon Slayer mode. He goes into Super Saiyan Blue. He goes into Ultra Instinct. He goes into every single mode put together. And then you think you've seen all the forms because he just used every transformation available to him, which is he basically just grew scales and darkness around him. Super Saiyan just brought his hair out to be more spiky, and he's using it, but like not really. To be honest, he's thinking he's gonna try out his powers on this thing. All of them went in his mindscape and said, "Nope, that thing's too powerful. Trying out all your powers won't really work. Just try your strongest powers. Put them all together." He thinks, sure, no big deal. And that's when he's met with a punch. And this is with his almost full power left. And he's about to activate full cowling 1,000,000%, but not quite yet. So he can wield 1,000,000%, but he's like his 1,000,000%, which basically busts his arm. What I mean by busts his arm, it messes his arm up pretty bad. But nothing that can't be fixed. And he's been training, so it'll only, basically mess his arm up a little bit, but still a lot more painful than anything most people would have to go through. So he throws this giant thing, throws that punch, more like a hand swat, and hits Deku, sending him flying into a wall, breaking his body in two. At least that's what they think would happen. He gets a giant cut on him. And this was in the middle of the night. While his powers are working, he's basically fighting this thing for a solid 5 hours, and the sun's coming up. He fights for a solid more 5 hours. They're amazed that a battle's gone on this long, and all the heroes there are basically useless to help. And every time they go in to step in, it's more like just them all dodging and hitting it while Deku's recovering, so that he won't die. What I mean by recovering is he's losing a lot of stamina. Aries actually there, resetting his stamina every time that happens. Just back to stamina, back to stamina, back to stamina. And yeah, he's heavy breathing, and then he gets sent flying back with a hit that actually breaks his leg. He's standing on one leg, with the other one completely shattered underneath him. Though when he steps on it, it straight snap. You hear a cracking noise and he falls. People think Deku's they think the fight is lost when all of them are fighting at their max. That's when Eri messes with the basically gets around the barricade. No one saw this because she's really small and it's really smoky. And she actually grabbed Deku, trying to pull him out of there. But what she wound up doing was resetting his leg. And this is when he feels something. Protect. 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 And Koda does the same thing he did against Muscular. He straight up launches an attack at that thing, and this thing's just target acquired right at that kid. Goes straight up to swing at Koda, and unexpectedly, Deku straight up blitzes in, punching this thing's fist, sending it flying backwards. And he just shows anger, raw anger. And he is using this to get out all the anger he's using. Because I'm going to say the God Slayer mode and Demon Slayer modes were actually able to be activated in this. This is what activates them. So every single power was just, boom, activated. Not even the strongest beings in the multiverse could step to him at this point. If you're wondering how come he didn't already win Saitama one punch, thing is, this thing is immune to that. It's kind of like Boros when it comes to healing. It can take a punch that would blow it to ashes and come back. So Deku's going to have to use his basically everything. He throws a punch, shattering his arm, sending this thing flying, but not killing it. They've noticed that their punches are doing less and less and less. And this is when someone steps up into Deku's mindscape. His name is Reto. Yeah, I'm adding this. Y'all might hate me for this, but yeah. You might think, I've never even heard of this name. But yeah, it's a weird anime character from a really stupid anime. In my opinion, it's called, what was it? Super HX Arrows. Yes. Super HX Arrows. And he's basically... This watch appears on his arm, and it feeds off energy. And there's a form called Beast Mode that he had entered once, and he learns how to use this without being bitten by a weird Seiju thing is what they're called. And he gets bit, and he doesn't really get bit, but like, boom. The power awakens as if he was bit. And by the way, this will basically destroy everything of clothing someone usually has, except for this thing, because I'm just saying he uses it in one arm. And his arm sleeves are basically destroyed already, so he doesn't have to worry about that. And he's throwing punches, noticing it's not working. And this is when a breakout at Tartarus happens. All the villains got their collars instantly taken off, and the power shut down. All the doors opened, everyone was loose. And they noticed something. The more they fight, the closer they get to Tartarus. As if this thing is moving back slightly every time. Which it has been, but they think, oh no, they're gonna come now. How are we gonna win? And this is when Deku remembers something. He was one of those guys. And he's like, perfect timing. They think he's changing to the villain side, but in actuality, he's thinking about having help from the villains, which is usually something a hero would never do. But yeah, I'm going to say he got that mindset of, if anyone offers help, I'm taking it. Like from Saitama. And what happened is, All For One busts in on the scene with his full power unleashed. Muscular busts on the scene with his full power unleashed. Shigaraki, everyone, overhaul. Every single person busts on the scene with their power completely unleashed. And Stain being there, he noticed something odd. Sorry about that. He noticed, and he said something to Deku. Something that no one was expecting. Make it bleed. Because his blades wouldn't pierce its skin. Sorry about that again. So, Deku punches it with a full power hit. Noticing it won't do it, he goes with a chop using an iron finger technique that's actually in martial arts. Because he learned martial arts in this version. And this iron finger technique is of the Shaolin monks' real-life technique. It's not an anime thing. And he pierces the skin. Noticing that blood is still on the thing's blood is on Deku's skin, he is on Deku's hand. He basically blitzes right over to Stain and saying, here. Because Stain's quirk is the ability to stop people by ingesting their blood. And, like, she's there, but, like, she won't transform into anyone, like, forget it, I'm saying she does. She transforms into, like, a Deku double, which I'm saying is basically that she can do that. And twice, it's actually not that, it's the power the things are, is twice is there, he's there, and he's just, like, intriguing. And if you don't know what the powers are, all you have to do is, like, all you have to know is someone's measurements. And with Deku, his measurements are clear. It's like 8 foot tall, a ton of muscles, and boom. Yeah, so he makes copies, a lot of copies of Deku. What he did was made about 2,000 copies of himself. If you're wondering why he would make copies of himself since he hates making copies of himself, it's because he sees it as the only way to protect Toga. And they all basically make millions. And I'm saying the more powerful someone is, the harder it is for those things to break. For, like, from All Might down, it would take a broken arm. But, like, when your power exceeds All Might's, then that would be at least the power that would break 2 arms. And this is the person's arms who it's transformed into, not just the average humans. So, yeah. And Deku, he sees that they all have a very limited version of his quirk. And so they all together go in with the strongest, like, 1,000,000,000% punch, and basically shattering all their arms. Only one arm, though, so they still have the other one. They all throw that second one. And this is enough to send that thing flying back, which they all poof. Toga, not doing those punches, using the power that's at their disposal to kick with full power in full cowling. Which, yes, even the kicks hurt a lot, because kicks are usually a lot more powerful than punches, but no. In this version, they aren't. They're just the same power because of how jacked Deku is. So every kick shatters something. And what she does is, this transformation she chose was basically the full strength for about 20 seconds. So she only ingested enough blood from Deku to go for 20 seconds. And this was from when he used a full-powered punch. A little bit of his blood squirted towards her, and she used that as her fuel. Just a couple drops of blood, so it's only going to be around for like 2 minutes. So they're all fighting at full capacity, and Deku uses something no one's seen yet. Kamehameha! And sending the thing flying. Muscular is there, he's punching at the thing, noticing it isn't doing much. The Nomu's there, it's fighting, noticing the Nomu is very inferior. All they're doing is fighting, it's all they have, all the villains, all the heroes. And then All For One steps in, and basically stops it with a quirk called Stop. It can stop anything for around a minute, though they had used that time where that thing was stopped because of that quirk already, so they knew it. Which, yes, Stain's knives can pierce it, but not very effectively. As in, he'd be lucky to get a single drop of blood, which is very difficult. So, yeah. They keep fighting with all they have, and Deku uses something which is basically called Creation, which I'm not sure how he's doing this. I'm saying it was one of Goku's abilities or something. Nope, Honest Voltigode. Strongest sword in existence, the Magic-y sword, and the staves. He makes all of those at once and starts letting off magical attacks at full power, and there's like, what is he doing? He's doing roars, supernovas, everything. The works. And then he does something unexpected. His power all stops. And they think, oh no, he's out of energy. And Eri said, no, he's serious. And he basically goes serious. Full power. Punch! And he punches this thing with the strongest hit imaginable. One that even Saitama hasn't really shown in the anime. He's shown right before he would land it, but he's never shown it landing. This version, he makes it land with all the boosts of every single power he has. And that punch basically shattered this entire thing into dust. And yeah, I said it can come back from dust. But then, even in dust, it's all together with, like, wind that Deku's controlling. And he says, Fire Dragon. Roar of the 8 Dragons. Roar! Which basically just turns the ashes into absolute nothingness. Noticing that there's still a single ash left, starting to grow back into muscle, starting to grow back into what it was, he basically picks it up and goes Kamehameha. Kamehameha! And after this was an entire half a day. And what I mean by that is, the only reason he was able to finish the last part of it is because when I said that his power all seemed to stop, that was because of the one mode. He entered the one mode, which I know is inferior to the true one, but he entered the one mode for a brief second, and then entered the true one for a millisecond, and did this attack, and then he lands on the ground, almost burning. Really bad, but Eri hits him with time backwards on him, so he's back to full power. And this actually exhausts him because they all were using their quirk so much that their quirk was exhausted. By the way, everyone, Class 1A, Class 1B, name them, they were there. Shinso noticed that he would be useless because this thing didn't talk. So Deku gave him a version of One For All that he could wield, along with basically making a copy of Muscular's quirk and giving it to him, because he knows that Muscular's quirk would be great for One For All. So yeah, they all basically have a version of Muscular's quirk at this point, so Muscular's like, kinda sucks not being the only one with this quirk anymore. Deku also messed with the Nomu's quirk, and he has basically made a copy of all that. And because they saved, literally, the world, they're actually not letting them out of prison, but they're treating them better in prison, as in, they're called heroes. Well, not all of them. All for One would have to do that at least two more times to be even considered heroic in the slightest because of how many people he's killed. But in this version, All for One actually got injured by a giant attack that he blocked because there was a child standing right behind him that was too close to the danger zone. And this injury was healed by Eri, and Eri, thinking that Deku and All for One looked similar, asked who All for One was, and Deku said, "That's my dad," which is true. In this universe, that was his dad. And she notices that All Might seems a little angry by this, and the reason this is because All Might thought he was considered Deku's dad, but really no. So after this giant fight that took everything out of everyone, they start to rest. And the villains who were there, which basically every villain from Tartarus was there, even Kurogiri showed up with like everyone from that league. Their entire army helped out fighting. They were going to arrest them all, but not even the police officers had anything left. They basically allowed all citizens, even citizens, to use their quirks. Normal citizens, villains, everyone was allowed to use their quirk. And thing is, they thought they were done, and all of them were completely exhausted. They had nothing left, and not even Deku could really do much more than stand up. All of them were tired, and then, when they think everything's over, a giant dragon shows up. They think this is going to be the end. Deku, going with everything left he has left in the tank, which he won't be able to stand up after this. He'll be taken to an emergency room. He's basically going with the ultimate dragon roar. He's combining every element: ice, fire, strength. He's even roaring with the power. And he actually knows that a roar wouldn't be sufficient enough to stop this thing because it's launched an attack that almost took off Deku's arm. But Deku saying there's a way as he stood up and saying, "Ultimate technique. Absolute. Unstoppable. Style. Crimson Lotus." Which is not just Crimson in this version, it's called Absolute Lotus. Absolute Lotus stops everything and everyone. Not even a particle remains of this dragon. But the dragon had something Deku didn't. It was called Immortal Dragon. So the only particle remaining left was growing back into a giant dragon. Noticing that no matter what he did, he couldn't stop it. He said this, "Bon." And he actually trained with Bon for a millisecond, which was in his mind was like 2 days. It was like a millisecond. So he had the immortality of Bon, and he was single, and he notices that he ain't got anything left in the tank. So he says, "Yeah, seems about right." And he stole the immortality and hit it with a roar. And when he hit the floor, everyone thought he was dead, because they've seen people use their quirks to the point where they died, which is rare but still possible. They hit the ground like rocks, and basically everyone was absolutely stopped. And then an unthought thing would happen. Y'all think this is over because everyone's down? Nah. I'm having that weird decay dude help out in this version. So, there is another dragon that comes, launching a giant flame attack. Similar to Igneel Roar, but it was a lot different than Igneel. It was actually an evil fire dragon. So, yeah. Deku noticing he ain't got the ability to stop it, he just throws his body in front of it, which blocks the attack, but he thinks, guess it'll work. And he yells, "Now I got a fire in my belly." He pulls a Natsu and eats all the flame, which is enough. Which everyone's like, he still had something left? Impressive. And they actually say this, it's just like, whoa, he's actually got something left? Sorry guys, I'm a little tired. Anyway, they say he actually has something left, and he didn't. This was only that dragon's roar, which he actually saying, "Decay boy, come here." And knowing that he was gonna die if he didn't, I forgot what this dude's name was. He actually jumps on Deku's back and saying, "Get us up there. I can stop it." They both know this, and it's just like, okay. And his dragon form awakens. He uses his demon. He actually knows that he can't use no more magic. But he says, I got one thing left. He uses Asta's demonic form. Both wings, both horns come out, and he straight up just flies up there. And he actually goes into a Dragon Slayer mode, which slight dragon ability, because he can't really fly very well in Dragon Force, because he's not got the proper wingspan yet. He goes Fire Dragon Roar, because all the other elements are stripped, tapped dry. And then it's noticed that roar is about equivalent to the average roar of this dragon. So, yeah, they both threw that roar. It wasn't enough, and that's when he basically takes that little decay dude and straight up yeets him right at the dragon. The decay dude straight up knowing perfect chance, and he goes over the dragon, grabbing it by the back, which is enough to basically burn it. Not really burn, but more like disintegrate it with that weird disintegrate quirk he has. It's enough to doing that, and they're both going falling to the ground, and Kurogiri basically catches them both, and basically turns it where they're upside down, and they were basically went from going down to going what they thought was going up. They were completely confused on how this was happening, and then as they're going down for the final second, who's to save them but the only two people who would? You have basically, I'm not trying to say this, because they were both at such a height that they'd be dying if they hit the ground, so yeah. So I'm going to say Bakugo uses Explosion and flies high enough with the added boost of One for All to grab them, and so does Mineta. Only in this version, Mineta Strip just covers them both in sticky balls. So Bakugo, knowing he ain't catching them, they're both too heavy. He could catch one of them, the other one's too heavy. That would be Deku being way too heavy because of all that muscle he has. So they're like, I know what to do. And they cover them both in sticky balls, and they're basically both collapsing under the ground, which these sticky balls basically work to absorb the power of that punch and let it out. So they both covered in basically a mountain of these things, and then he says release, which is something he can do now, is snap his fingers, and he release it all. And they'll all pop off of and they'll actually unstick, and they'll just be there. So they're both really tired, and everyone's really tired, and all the villains basically return to Tartarus because they don't really want to fight anymore. They're too old for this. That's what they all say, even though a lot of them aren't that old. They're just like, oh, I'm too tired for this. And Stain, they know how he's actually never killed a hero. They look at all the heroes that were, well, they call him the hero killer. He's never even killed a single hero. They consider allowing him to become heroic, but because he was a vigilante, not a villain. Vigilante and villains are different things. There are people who use their quirks to try fixing the world, not trying to take over the world. And all of them basically go back to the prison, and they just rest. A solid month later, they think everything is done. Nope. That stupid dude who can take people's powers snuck up behind Deku and smacked him on the back, took all the powers of Deku, hit him with an ultimate power, and hit him with the ultimate powers that he had, sending him flying back.
I'm talking about that weird Monoma dude who basically thinks he's untouchable. Yeah, that little guy. Little blonde dude thinks he's untouchable because he's... I don't even know why he thinks he's untouchable. Yeah. And basically everyone had nothing left of their quirk left to use. And in this version, Mineta, after using that power to save them, his head was completely bleeding. They all land, and they're all completely tired. They all go to bed, and while some of y'all might be wondering where Aerie is at the moment, because she used a lot of her power too, Recovery Girl will not need to recover anybody because, well, Aerie's helping with that. Aerie was helping with that. And Aerie and Recovery Girl put their powers together to heal everyone at once. So, yeah, I'm not sure how it's gonna work, I'm just saying it worked. Yeah, fusion quirk, I guess. You can just call it that. They put their quirks together to call it making a brand new power. So they're all really tired, especially those two. And Aerie just says, time to go to bed. And they went fighting this entire day. They all hit the ground and they're just like, too tired, but still hungry. And there's basically a feast prepared, and Deku has to always eat a lot because, well, maintaining that much muscle. Which he does lift a lot of weights, and Eri actually one time messes with Deku's weights. The way he keeps them is that she won't be able to get hurt by them no matter what she does, and the weights she has are in a different area. So she shouldn't be going there. She knows common sense about not messing with things that she couldn't lift. Because if need be, she'd have to use her quirk to reset it to where it was, well, really messing with it to where it was nothing but ashes. So they both go to bed, and I'm going to say that her room is technically connected to Deku's room. Like, they had to mess with it to where there was, like, another room that was connected to Deku's room. And they're all going to bed for another night. They sleep, they wake up. Just another day at UA. But this version, they say, you got 2 weeks off. They rest for 2 weeks. They still need a lot of their energy back, but they go back to the training camp with Koda there. And in this version, Koda hasn't really seen Deku in a while because of the whole incident and being stuck at the training camp with all the wild pussycats, I guess that's their name. Saying their name is a pain. Anyway, yeah. In this version, Deku gets there and he is completely trumping the competition. He made his the old records that was there look like nothing. And he sees the million there. The big three, I guess you could call them, but really they aren't the big three anymore. There's only one person there who's really equivalent to hero power. Technically they are big three, but they're just, now there's gonna be in the second. Technically now they're big four, but they're like second through 4, because Deku's number 1. And while Todoroki and all them are keeping up somewhat with those 3, they're all a little bit inferior. No matter how powerful you are, you're going to be inferior to the absolute embodiment of strength. And if you're wondering what that whole HX Arrow thing was, that's basically a watch that uses your energy, horny energy for some reason. I was told to watch the anime, so I did. And yeah, it uses the energy you have that's horny to help you fight. And Deku used that when he combined every single power he had into beast mode with one punch. Which does not shatter his arms. That stuff will make you at least that watch alone can use your power to make you as strong as All Might, but you're really injured afterwards. And he had been using the boosted year into its ultimate form. And in this version, I'm going to say they say push your power to its absolute limit. He enters his full power and the absolute limit of it, which is called Final Form, which is just what he calls it because it's the most powerful of everything put together. He can only hold it for about 2 minutes, maybe 3 if he's lucky. It combines every single power that he has, and after the end of it, he's completely exhausted. He wasn't using anywhere near that much power against that thing, but if he had, it would have basically been 1 punch, 2 punch, 3 punch, 4. All the beings on the floor. And he's also got the power of... That's all. Yeah, I think I made him too OP for this version. I'm sorry, but... Yeah, I think this might be my last part in this What If. So, sorry if you like it. Sorry if you hate it. This is all I can do. I'm exhausted. Talking about their powers. And they're all basically... Oh yeah, they got tired, so gotta fix that. So after the training camp, Deku basically says, whatever. One for all. And he basically passes down. They basically become heroes. Deku is a pro hero, number 1. Which, yeah. All the pro heroes think this dude is basically the only one of us here who's unstoppable. Which is true. And he dies of... Wow. What could he die of? He's got the demonic power, so won't really die of old age. Wow, how am I gonna get this guy not to be alive forever? Forget it. He's alive forever, and the entire world is covered in peace. And he looks like this forever. And he gave slight immortality to everyone through Bond's gift. Through Bond's power called Snatch, but it's also this other part of it called Gift. So he basically has that power, too. So he basically lives forever, so protecting people. He settles down, but eventually his wife dies. If you're wondering who his wife was, I'm going to say it was... I really don't know who I should make it. I'm between that girl, Mei Hatsume, and that girl, Melissa Shield. I'm between those two, but forget it, I'm saying he had 2 girls. That's all. So, yeah. He had these 2 girls. Well, they all had his kids. He got a lot of kids. They all had different powers. And he noticed that all the kids he had were similar to the people who got his powers from. Even one that looked like himself without powers, which he gave it his son without powers all the power of one for all. And he just goes to, and he just eventually saying, I guess my time is done. And he collapses, which, while his body was immortal and his mind was immortal, he couldn't take it anymore. He lived for too long, he wanted to die. So he basically taught his kids everything he knew. And while he's around for almost forever, when the world comes to an end, he basically gifts the universe his immortality and all his power to the strongest beings around, the gods. He visits the gods in their own realm and giving them the power he had. They say, who do you want to give it to? He says, I don't want to give it away. I want to be able to speak with those who are dead, those who are alive, everyone. They say, so you want to become a god? Prove yourself. And he straight up steps in and fights literally all the gods. And he's the strongest god, but he doesn't take role as leader. And forget, he does take role as leader. He's now the leader of the gods and completely unstoppable. The only one who can stop him is... Wow, no one. But everyone put together might be able to put an injury on him. Yeah, so that's what this What If was. If you liked it, you liked it. If you didn't like it, you didn't like it. Bye, I'll see you for my next video. I might do it now, I might do it later. I might be doing other What Ifs, so I'm not just going to limit myself to Deku What Ifs. Peace out, your boy is gone.